What's up, everybody? You're listening to episode 4 of the PS Files, the podcast that investigates the biggest stories shaping PlayStation and gaming as a whole. Each week we open a new case file to examine the games, news, and moves surrounding PlayStation and what it could all signal for you. I'm your host, Marco. Joining me is my good friend and co-host, Pablo, and this week our case file includes Crimson Desert, the middling hype around Saros, and an early verdict on PS5 Pro's PSSR 2.0 update. And Pablo, best of all, we're doing that without any kind of mindless Sony pony shilling.
We love PlayStation here, but we're not afraid to say what's what.
Yeah, not afraid to be critical at all. But in the meantime, get settled, get situated, and join us as we open this week's case file, starting with the curious case of Crimson Desert. And my oh my, what a curious case it's been. But
curious case indeed.
Yeah. But let's look at how we got here, though. The game was first revealed all the way back in 2019 as this prequel of sorts to Black Desert Online. But after several delays and a lot of radio silence, it basically resurfaced as this single-player, open-world experience with an almost unfathomable level of ambition, because it didn't just come to us as another open world, Pablo. It pulled in elements from The Witcher, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, The Elder Scrolls, and many others in a way that made Crimson Desert's premise feel like a greatest hits of open world game design. Because it didn't just want to be good, Pablo. It wanted to be everything.
This has been tossed around quite a bit, but it was kitchen sink the game, throwing everything at this game in terms of what an open world game could be. Elements of just about every game you could think about. Elden Ring, Zelda. And that got a lot of people hyped because they thought if this game could hit on these promises, it could be one of the greats,
Yeah, and that's where curiosity definitely started to build, because to your point, when a game looks like it's trying to do everything, the natural question is, can they actually pull this off? Is Crimson Desert this year's Expedition 33 in that it's a breakout sensation that no one saw coming? Or is it something that's trying too hard to be everything at once and is going to fail miserably? And so you didn't know whether to be excited or skeptical. And I feel like the longer it sat with you, the more questions came. Not in a bad way. It was just more of like a, what is this kind of way, if that makes sense?
Yeah, we have to kind of just be pretty analytical about this sort of stuff. You got a development team who's not really experienced with single player games, and they're promising the world to you. At the very least, showing you that this is what they're trying to do. You got to be skeptical. I don't understand where the hype for this game came from, and we'll get into it as we dig into this file a little bit more, but I was from the onset, I was absolutely skeptical, and I doubted everything I didn't even think this game was real.
And obviously when the reviews hit, we all kind of leaned in, not just to see if it was good, but almost to finally understand what the game even was, to your point. And so it was a very informative process with the reviews especially. And what came back was very interesting because it wasn't a runaway success or a complete disaster. It sort of landed in this weird off-kilter mediocrity that you almost can't stop thinking about, because it was the kind of mediocrity that doesn't bring you a sense of closure. Mediocrity can work in mysterious ways. Sometimes it's what pulls us away, but other times one man's mediocrity is another man's masterpiece, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's where this case really starts getting interesting for us, because Crimson Desert's the kind of game that forces you to check with your own instincts as a gamer. Right. And the way the reviews can impact us, becoming less about review scores and Metacritic aggregates and more about what do I actually look for when I sit down and play something.
It's hard to decipher exactly how bad or how good this game is. And so that's kind of where we're at too, where, full disclosure, we've not played it. It's not really something that's piqued our interest. And the reviews and what people are saying has actually brought up even more questions about the game and the successes or the potential success of the game.
And it's not just us. I think that we are in a really unique position where it's almost like you have more in common with the community right now if you didn't play it, because even though it's definitely taking off on Steam, has several 100,000 people playing it, there's also a lot of people who are kind of not sure what to make of the game, like we were talking about earlier, and are kind of sitting on the outskirts like we are right now and going, I still don't get the game. I still don't fully understand why it exists and what it's trying to accomplish. And it's not terrible either, so do I take the chance? Do I not? It's really weird.
And that's all being convoluted by people who are standing proud and loud that this game isn't for me. And then the other side saying, you don't know video games if you don't like this game. The term, this game isn't handholdy, has been thrown around so much that it's actually pissing me off. People are saying, oh, this game doesn't have a great story, the exploration takes some time, and they're saying that because there's no yellow paint everywhere, that this game isn't handholdy. But that's not the critical reception of the game itself. I think in a lot of ways, for some people, for you and me, for a game like this to capture us, it has to have good characters, it has to have good story, and apparently this game doesn't have that. So we're kind of out on that alone, but then there's everything else that's being thrown around about the game.
Yeah, and I think there's also a bigger question we want to sit with here for a bit too, which is not just what happened with Crimson Desert or what people are saying about it, but really understanding what it reveals about us as players, how we navigate hype and reviews and expectations in a space where not everything is going to be for everyone. And that's a really interesting thing to unpack. But I think, looking at the Crimson Desert reviews and kind of what the takeaways were from me, I think for me, Pablo, and tell me if you agree, it reinforced to me that scale and scope don't necessarily hook me. It's more about clarity and cohesion, right? Like, identity is everything to me. And I respect games most for when they know exactly what they are. Right. And not the ones that are trying to be everything that you remember.
Yeah, the age-old saying of less is more, right? That's kind of where we're at. And then the opposite of that, more is more. When this game is out here saying this game is bigger than Red Dead Redemption 2, that sounds like a nightmare to me. It's too much. It's too much game. And people would say, well, you're getting your bang for your buck. But I'm not really buying a game to play it for the rest of my life or playing it for months on end. I'm playing it for an experience. And if that experience isn't really hitting with me, then this game has failed in what it's trying to do. Because I doubt their entire approach to this game is going to be a 5-year game where it's not a live service game, but people are going to be playing it for 5 years and discovering new things. That's not how you make games, especially a single player game,
And I think to that point, it just reinforces that I'm also not drawn to experiences that feel fragmented in that way, right, or overloaded with systems and mechanics and features, or just weighed down by complexity for the sake of complexity, if that makes sense. I think a massive sandbox only works for me if there's a strong through line, whether that's story or pacing or just a clear sense of direction. Like in my past, I really struggled to take open world games for that very reason. Like I just couldn't wrap my head around them. I didn't feel that same sense of wonder that everyone else did. I felt more listless than anything, or aimless, if that makes sense. And to some degree, I still do struggle with that sometimes. And that's probably because open world games have stagnated, in my opinion, with very few exceptions, because they lack thoughtful, intentional design.
Right. I think there's exceptions to all of that, but there's a through line for a lot of that. I mean, I'll give you some examples. Like Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild. Those are sandbox games. But I am a huge, massive Zelda fan. And it's me being in that world, experiencing the characters that I love. That's getting me through that game. Tears of the Kingdom had a great story, and that added to the experience. Red Dead Redemption 2, great characters, incredible story. That pulled me through the experience of that sandbox, right? Elden Ring, I love the Souls-like games. I love being in that world. I love that everywhere you went and every step you took, there was a new kind of enemy, a new challenge. That pulled me through. And there was story there mixed in that if you really got into it, you could really enjoy it. But if it lacks a mechanic or a storytelling thing to kind of pull me through, like you said, I feel listless. I feel like I'm in this huge open world, but there's so much. It's a paralysis by just too many things to do. I just don't know where to go, and that's not fun to me. So I have a question for you, Marco. How much of this whole hype train do you put on Black Abyss versus the internet, who has kind of bought into, hey, this is everything, the game?
I would say I give like 30% of it to Black Abyss, because while they did make it the game that it is, and they're accountable for that, they never once said, this is our quadruple A game that's going to take the world by storm. They never made it, they never sensationalized it to that point.
That's right.
They just did too much, right? I think where the community maybe needs to kind of revisit some things is we get a little too overexcited sometimes. And we all kind of lean forward a little bit and think, oh, this is just crazy enough to work. And that's great that we have high hopes the way we do, but I think there was also a lot of writing on the wall to temper expectations. And what I would say to that point is not every good game is a good game for you. And that's the one thing that reviews can't solve for, right? Because the gaming media is going to push hype. They're going to push scale. They're going to push must-play experiences really hard. But real enjoyment is personal, it's specific, and sometimes even at odds with the consensus. So it's our job as gamers to not chase scores, but to really understand our own patterns of what pairs best with our taste and preferences, because everyone has invisible criteria. They just don't know how to always articulate it. So I think it's a great opportunity through this game to sort of encourage people to really consider what drives you as a gamer and look for more ways to stay closer to the kinds of games that truly make sense to you, and really find your little corner of trustworthy resources instead of leaning into what the community's saying, because sometimes the community kind of drives everyone off the ledge. And this feels like one of those times to me.
Now, give me kind of like a personal take here in terms of how you navigate reviews specifically, especially if it's a game that you're looking forward to play, but you're not quite sure.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think reviews give me context, but not conviction. They are good at answering if the quality is there, but not great at answering if a game will resonate with me specifically. So over time, I've learned to read reviews more to spot patterns and not necessarily scores. So
I had exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, looking for like repeated friction points, like bad controls or pacing issues or bad narrative or polish. Those are the things that I kind of look for, the common denominators, right? And I also, as I mentioned a second ago, I don't read as many reviews as I used to because I don't want a chorus of opinions in my head before I've even had a chance to form my own opinion. What about you, though?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I like to. I have a few content creators and even reviewers. The way they feel about games is kind of the way that I feel about games. So when I see that they like or don't like a game, I like to focus in on why. And then if I agree, then I might not get the game, or I may get it with some trepidation away for a sale. So I love what you said, that reviews give you context, not conviction. I think that that's 100% accurate. But for me, it's just finding like-minded people online that you trust and that they may have something to say, that's going to make the picture just a little bit more clear. And I think that's what's important here, is just to kind of get the perfect amalgamation of information to then make a decision based on the trusted sources that you have.
Yeah, and that's crucial because, again, if you go online, you go on social media, you're going to have a million people barking at you about a million different things that matter to them specifically. And a lot of times they'll try to project that onto you and say, this should be just as important to you as it is to me. And it might seem obvious to say that, to not index that, right? But a lot of people do, and they do sort of absorb those opinions and sort of take them as their own and sort of parrot those opinions back out there. And I think it's just important to, again, just stay more in tune with what works and what doesn't work for you. Because if you're chasing what Metacritic is saying or what somebody on YouTube said, you're going to get spun around in 1,000 directions and end up with a library of games that you're not really that even into. And that's happened to the best of us before. We see a great game that gets like a 93 on OpenCritic or Metacritic. You're like, oh my God, I got to play it.
My video game library is filled with 93s, bitch, and I didn't play none of them.
and that happens. That's the reality of the situation, really, is just that it works just as damaging for the good games as it does the bad games. You can be steered into a bad experience, or you can be thrusted into an experience that everyone loves, but good and damn well is not even close to being for you. But nevertheless, that is indeed the curious case of Crimson Desert. But as it turns out, Pablo, Crimson Desert is not the only curiosity of a case that we're talking about this week, because we are going to segue into our next topic here, which is Saros. And the question of, where is the Saros hype? I'm really surprised that more people haven't noticed it. Saros is kind of sitting in this space of, this looks cool, but I played this game already. Yes. And for me, I think that disconnect is really worth paying attention to right now, because I do feel like there's a missing piece here. And if there's not a connection that can form soon, even a great game like this can feel like it's just sort of existing in the background, so to speak, much like Returnal was. And I don't say that as a knock against the quality of the game. It's more about how it lands in the broader conversation and where that leaves Saros now.
It's interesting because when a studio like Housemarque can't figure out how to market this game, because if they say they put too much out, everybody's going to be like, yep, another Housemarque game. Oh, this is Returnal 2.0, right? And I think that's kind of where they're at. I mean, they just released a trailer about features, and all the features that they talked about are just features that the PS5 has for every game, basically, you know? Yeah. It's almost like they're lost in the way where we have to talk about this game somehow, but we don't want to talk about the game specifically too much because we're going to run into a situation where people are just going to be like, oh, it's just more Returnal.
Yeah, I think as a spiritual successor to Returnal, you're right. The question isn't really whether Saros will be good. It's really how to generate excitement. You know, I think Sony, Housemarque, and the gaming media at large are all sort of quietly struggling to find anything needle moving to say about Saros. Again, not because it lacks quality, but because there's just no aha moment to uncover about what it's actually doing. So it feels like everyone is searching for an angle. And I think that's why you saw the trailer you saw. They're just kind of searching for something to kind of give it a little bit more oomph, but no one really found it yet. No one found that angle. It just sort of feels like a game that exists now and something that just looks solid. But that's a tough place to be because without a fresh hook, even something solid can take longer to find an audience, if that makes sense.
And it's even more kind of like, I would even say worrisome, because for all the praise that Returnal got, it's still a niche game. I mean, it sold less than 2 million copies. And if you're not talking up this game, then it's going to fall back down into that niche category, even though you're going to put elements into this game, at least from what they said, that could possibly make this game more accessible and even a better experience than Returnal. Then at that point, you know, you're not gonna get the Pablos of the world, because I didn't love Returnal. I thought Returnal was a little too obtuse for me, and so you're not showing me anything different other than a new protagonist. It gets into that weird spot where you're not really helping yourself. I'm a little concerned about how well this game is gonna do.
It's almost a little bit weird and ironic in this way, but tell me if you agree. I feel like when a game is more either mysterious, experimental, or even a little sloppy, kind of like Crimson Desert was, it at least gives people something to dig into, something to question, something to debate. And there's a friction and uncertainty around it that often fuels momentum and conversation. But Saros doesn't have that right now. It feels understood to a fault. And that's where my concern creeps in. It's not because of how good it'll be. It's because of who it's actually for. Because you're right. If it's living in this space where it's being a more refined or even slightly more approachable version of Returnal, the question becomes, is that enough to bring in the people who didn't connect with Returnal in the first place? Or does it just appeal to the same small audience that was already on board to begin with?
And I hate to bring it up again, but do you think, let's go from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom. Essentially the same game, right? But they were able to really market on Ultra Hand, a Fuse, Ascend, and the Recall. These new powers that redefine and recontextualize how you play Tears of the Kingdom compared to Breath of the Wild. If they can't even do that, if they can't even tell us these new things are going to recontextualize, this is going to make you feel like it's a new game, even though it's familiar to you, then that's a problem. And not a problem in that this game's going to come out, it's going to be bad, or it's not going to sell at very least 2 million copies. But I think that they would want this game to be a little bit more, right? A little bit more successful, a little bit, have more people play it, have more people talk about it.
I feel like the problem Housemarque is struggling with is they're too afraid to say that it's an easier game. And here's why that's a problem, because that means they're not taking enough time hyping up the features that they've added, whether it's like the second chance thing like Sekiro, or the bubble shield thing that they have now, or the fact that you can level up certain things and get permanent upgrades. They're talking about it, but they're almost downplaying it because they don't want to lose the crowd that wants the white knuckle experience, bullet hell kind of thing. And I think they have to kind of understand that if you want success, you have to lower that down a little bit to the casual level on some level, and say, no, this is really safe for you to join us.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've made it sound safe yet. I think they've made it sound like a slightly less difficult Returnal. And as someone who couldn't even get to the third biome of Returnal without throwing in the towel, and I've beaten some hard games. I'm not afraid of playing a difficult game, but like as someone who couldn't get the job done, it doesn't feel like the pitch is really speaking to me yet. Whereas if I felt like it was the front and center, these are the pillars. It is approachability, accessibility, whatever. Then I'd be like, okay, I might be able to take the chance here.
But they also run the risk of kind of telling on themselves about Returnal, right? They're stuck in a really awkward spot because now they don't want to downplay Returnal and say, hey, maybe we made a mistake. But to your point, they don't want to be like, this is an easier experience because automatically, you know that the people on the internet are just going to be like, oh, this is for those who can't handle the real tough games, you know?
I think the controversial thing I would say here, and again, I like Housemarque, I like what they do. I don't want to go, I don't want to go to hot take territory because I don't want to try to sound like I'm being controversial, but I really wish they didn't do this game. I think that's just kind of how I feel. It's not to say that I won't eventually get it and try it out, or I might even love it. I don't know. This might be the answer to my prayers for a better Returnal for me. I guess I just wish it was a different game.
I feel like they could have done something else, honestly. I agree with you. I don't think that's such a hot take. I think there's another element to it. I think people are happy this game is coming out, but are quietly kind of like, but really, again? I think that's kind of what's happening here as well.
And I hesitate because I don't want to call them or imply that Housemarque is lazy or that they're just going to the well again, but they are going to the well again. I mean, that's pretty clear. And I don't think that's a bad thing to say. I do feel like when the game comes out, a lot of people are going to defend this game tooth and nail and be like, don't you dare say that it's just a spiritual successor. That's diminishing what it is. It's reductive, whatever. I would probably have to push back from what I've seen so far and say, well, it is too much of the same thing. And it does make me wonder if it was best being positioned this closely as a spiritual successor, if that really was the best path forward, because while it builds confidence with some, it may have come at the cost of curiosity with the masses. And that's what worries me. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. It's not too far away from launch. And I will definitely be keeping an eye out for reviews and seeing what, people are saying in terms of just the context of what it's doing right and wrong, and make a decision of my own based on my preferences. I got to practice what I preach. So
that's right. Yeah.
But moving right along, before we get to our next segment, if you're enjoying the conversation so far, feel free to follow us on your favorite podcast app. We just joined the podcast space not too long ago. We're 4 episodes in, and so you joining us really does make a big splash on just getting us more exposure to more people who are like you, who just want really cool, grounded, thoughtful, and fair and critical PlayStation discourse. So it sounds like your jam. Go ahead and do the deed and follow us. And if you're also interested, we're also on Threads. We're coming up on like around 650 followers so far. Small, but growing. Really pride ourselves on having a small, tight-knit community. So we'd love to have you be a part of it if you don't mind. And you can find us right there at the PS Files on Threads and also on Instagram too. But look, we have one more thing on our case file. Let's talk about PlayStation's PSSR comeback. Very interesting case, because this one feels a little different, right? Because this is what feels like a comeback story, or I guess at least the start of one. Now, if you've been paying attention to the PS5 Pro saga at all, you know that it hasn't exactly been a smooth ride. And that's because PSSR, which was the PS5 Pro's exclusive upscaler, wasn't quite ready for the big leagues, to say the least. And that's because PS5 Pro enhanced games did not look anywhere near as clean or as stable or as upgraded as they should have been. And in many cases, games looked noticeably worse than the base PS5 versions, which was especially interesting.
The amount of times I got text messages from Marco just flipping out because he's like, you got the better version of the game and I can't do nothing on my end to go back to the PS5. Like, base,
because I traded away my PS5 to, kind of mitigate the cost of the PS5 Pro. So I was sort of left high and dry going, all right, what am I going to do? And I think for a lot of people, that created a lot of doubt, not just with PSSR, but in what the point of buying a PS5 Pro truly was, which you can attest, of course. Like you've been straddling the fence so long, the neighbors watching. as I say. And that's because you heard the horror stories, right?
I did. I probably, if it wasn't for Marco and him purchasing one, I probably would have already pulled the trigger on it. But firsthand horror stories, games that we were anticipating, like Alan Wake 2, having just a terrible kind of experience there. Marco, you went to Xbox, right? You had a double dip?
Yeah, I double dipped on quite a few games because it got so bad with like flickering issues, and like PSSR 1 had a really tough time with foliage. So if your game happened to be outside,
could have handled the bush.
It was you had to shave that thing down, hit some nair on that thing. It was crazy, man. But here we are now.
Talk to us, man.
So this month, of course, marked the release of PSSR 2.0, which is an update that not only gives studios a better upscaler to use, but also fixes games that are still stuck with the first iteration of PSSR and the problems that come with it. So I took some time to investigate this update, and after spending some time with it, I'll say this. I do think this is the first time that PSSR has truly felt convincing to me. It's not entirely perfect, but I think it's finally purposeful.
Would you say that this is the beginning of the PS5 Pro finally coming into its own and kind of delivering on the promises that Mike Cerny made?
I don't know if the answer is a clean yes to that, but I do think it's a step in the right direction, because I think now, for the first time, it feels like there's actual separation, not across every game, but enough of them where you start to see the vision of what PS5 Pro is really here to do. And I think that's where things get interesting, because as we see maybe what happens the rest of this year with some of the new games coming out and what it can really do to juice up those titles, we might get to the end of 2026 and the PS5 Pro goes from a you don't really need this to an absolute must-have. So what I did was I took some time testing a bunch of PS5 Pro enhanced games that I happen to own. What I did was I started breaking the improvements into tiers. So I have a tier list here.
All right.
Now, nothing I tried out was outright bad. So my tier starts from B up. But let's start with the B tier. So these ones I would say were more, Pablo, like noticeable improvements, but nothing earth-shattering. Okay. I would say those games consisted of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Stellar Blade, and Alan Wake 2. Definitely better. It cleaned up a lot of Alan Wake 2's weirdness, but not everything, because it's mostly their engine being what it is that kind of makes that a little wonky on console. But a lot of the flickering and weird graininess and stuff like that is pretty much gone now, so it's in really good shape. Rebirth already kind of looked great with the first PSSR update, so this was more just like fine-tuning and nicer looking hair and a couple of cleaner details. Nothing too earth-shattering. And Stellar Blade, it's always been a nice game to look at.
It has it,
But I noticed all the details.
That is.
I noticed I zoomed in all the details, and everything looked up to code, as it were.
Everything up to code. Yeah, perfect.
Now A tier. Okay. Now A tier is more like amazing improvements that really wowed me. Okay. Control Ultimate Edition, Metal Gear Solid Delta, Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill F, and The Last of Us 1 and 2. I thought all of these were especially interesting, particularly the Konami games, the Konami 3. So the two Silent Hills. So one of the worst parts of the PSSR 1 saga was Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill F. Those were in horrendous shape. Silent Hill 2 was by far the worst of all the PS5 Pro enhanced games. It was just a complete disaster. It cleaned up damn near everything, dude. And now it is, especially on quality mode, which is where the PSSR mode enables, it is insanely good. Control is clean and crispy. It is gorgeous to look at. Metal Gear Solid Delta, oh my god. It looks like...
Yeah, tell me about that. I was interested about that one.
Man, some of the cutscenes, dude, look like... You know how, like, the games they post on the PlayStation Store have those bull shots sometimes?
Yeah.
It looked like the bull shots in certain cutscenes, dude. So, like, I was like, oh my god. Like, I watched the cutscene with Snake meeting Granin in his office when he was drinking.
Yeah.
And I love that scene because of the ambiance, the warm lighting and stuff like that, but my god, dude. It's worth replaying it just to see the cutscenes alone. It's transformative in that way.
So at this point, like at this A tier, right, that we're at, would you say that based on what you've seen, you can say that when implemented correct, PSSR is in fact a game changer.
We're right there in game changer territory. We're
Okay,
right
okay.
there.
All right,
I think we're not quite past the threshold because I want to see what newer games are going to do before I make a final judgment call. But really good improvements. But they're not S tier.
Okay. Oh, S tier?
These ones are transformational, like truly like PS6 worthy. These 3 games right here, man, made my jaw unhinge, roll under the couch. I had to dig under the couch, grab my jaw, put it back on my face, man. I was out here jawless.
A couple quarters.
Listen, I look like Raiden from MGS4. That was a terrible nerd joke right there, and I'm going to let that one go. We're cutting that one out.
I thought it was a great joke.
Hey, man, watch out. Demon Souls. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
That's the one that made me put the controller down and go, huh? Like, what?
Nani?
Man, that one right there, I think, is the poster child for PSSR 2.0. And the irony of Blue Point Games being gone, you know,
oh yeah,
and not getting more of that type of quality again is it hurts even more now. It reopened the wound, but
damn,
incredible. It looks unbelievable. Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2.
Oh, excuse me?
If you put that game in quality mode and take that hoe out for a drive, it is it is impeccable. It's truly impeccable. It's like there's no reason for it to look this clean. I mean, every little crack and dent and scratch on their armor, the environments pop so much more. And in that game, the environments are everything because off in the distance, you see like it's going down in the background. Like the Tyranids, the enemies of the game, they're all rushing out there. It looks like war happening all across the map. And you can see everything with so much more fidelity now. It's like a graphical showpiece now. It really is. I would encourage you to try it out if you haven't played this game already. It's great. And on PS5 Pro, it's another level. Ghost of Yotei.
Okay.
Ghost.
Yeah, this one I did not see.
Yeah, man. This PSSR update made the pro mode, which already looked good. Yeah. And I didn't think I thought this was going to be one of those games where it's like, it looks good, but it's only like a small little uptick, right? No.
That's what I would have thought myself.
This looks like damn near native 4K, and it's running at like anywhere from 90 to 100 frames per second. They got some magic over there. They got some magic. I roamed around. I got on the horse. I'm just trotting along, and what's old was new again. It was like, oh, I just want to see everything all over again. It was truly breathtaking. So I have to say those were the big 3. So I would say overall, though, is it time to buy one? I think is the question that's come up a lot, you know?
Yeah. That was the question I had. It's like with the PSSR 2.0, is the PS5 Pro now a must-have? Are these features now a system seller for it?
I think it depends on who you are as a player. If I'm being honest, like if you're someone who is very like sensitive about image quality, who notices the finer details, or just who wants the best possible version of a game when you sit down and play because you have a good TV or a good monitor, this is probably the best time to jump in, especially before GTA 6, because if GTA 6 has PSSR 2.0, it is going to be an interesting thing because now, especially if the generation goes longer for PlayStation, and they have a way of sort of extending the life cycle with the PS5 Pro and really positioning that as almost the PS 5.5. Yeah. That might be a compelling argument now to go and get one, because if you have to wait until 2030 to get the PS6, let's just say hypothetically, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you get a PS5 Pro now and get that bump, and you still feel like you're getting a next gen or newer experience while you're waiting. So
especially if you do it now, that's like 4 years of that, you know? You're not just getting something like I did. I got the PS4 Pro, right? And then I only had it for like a year and a half before the PS5 came out. So
I don't know if that's going to happen again now. So I think it's a good investment at this point. And especially if you haven't had to deal with the headaches of beta testing the first PSSR like I had to do.
That's right.
You kind of walk in with the meal cooked for you. So
that's right. So, okay. You said when you came on here, you said that there is nothing lower than a B tier in terms of improvements. Mm-hmm. Do you think that that's it? The days of the PS5 Pro version of a game being broken, is that over, you think? Or are there still going to be games that are going to come out and just be worse on the Pro versus the PS5 base?
It all depends to me now on the effort and follow through of the developers themselves. Now it's just a matter of implementing it the right way. And as we know, we've seen good instances of things like FSR. We've seen bad instances of FSR. So I think the same is going to hold true here, where you'll probably see some middling efforts with some games where there's like, it's fine. It feels like a very marginal improvement. Whereas you'll see the games that really push it to the next level. And of course, that'll be mostly first-party games that really get the most juice out of the squeeze because they're so closely tied to the whole thing. But the real win to me is Unreal Engine 5. Because
that's right.
So many more studios, AA studios, AAA studios, they're all moving in that direction. You would hate for like playing the next Witcher game on PS5 Pro and it's completely ruined.
Jake.
It's totally ruined. That fear is now gone, and so that solves like 75% of my concerns.
That's awesome.
I don't have to keep debating where I'm going to play a game now.
Yeah, because that was the whole point of upgrading, is having the system that can do really incredible things with the games that you already have. And now that we're seeing that finally be true, I'm tempted to dive in there. I mean, temptation is not even the right word. I am upgrading this year for sure. When
you should,
we'll see, but that's something that I'm definitely going to dive into.
Yeah, I think you should, especially if you're someone out there with like a 4K TV or a really nice monitor, then I think it's a no-brainer at this point because you're leaving a lot of really good fidelity on the table at this point now. And that's something that I don't think anyone, even if you're not a graphics whore, really wants to pass up on because in the next few years, games are going to get more and more ambitious and we're going to see more expansive ideas come to the table. Like Grand Theft Auto 6 and games like that in the future. So you're going to want to have kind of the best thing you possibly can on the console side if you're a PlayStation fan. So I think there's a case to be made that now is the time to do it, especially before GTA 6 comes out, because you don't want to run into the wall where it's been available all this year and all last year, and now you're waiting until a month before the game comes out and you're kind of up shit creek. So you don't want that problem. Pencil it in if you haven't already done it. Pencil it in and start planning to get it because I think it's going to be worth your while.
Now, before we go, I do want to say one thing real quick. Just a quick recommendation out there for people who are looking for a game to play. I have been playing Mini Shoot Adventures. It's on PlayStation. It's on Xbox. It's Zelda meets Bullet Hell game. I just kind of wanted to shout that out real quick. It is fucking incredible. It came out last year on PC. But it is now out. It's literally a Zelda-like, but it's a bullet hell shooter. It's fucking great. I love it so much. I didn't want to pass up a show without saying, guys, if you have Game Pass, is on Game Pass, but it's also on PS5, on Switch, buy this game if you like those kind of games. Fucking great game.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I'll definitely keep an eye on it. I'm still working on Marathon right now and a second playthrough of Requiem, but I'm kind of on the fence about whether to get another game or wait for like Starfield or... I'm deciding whether I want to double dip on that one, but it's good to know that one's a good game. So I haven't checked out reviews yet, but I've heard people talk about it and say it's pretty fun. So
I mean, on Metacritic, it's like at 87. That's kind of where it sits. Yeah,
not bad at all. Not bad at all. All right, man. Well, I think that is going to do it for this week's case file. But before we file this episode away, please be sure to follow our show to catch new episodes every single Tuesday. But until next time, stay safe, save often, play on, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Peace out.